Yeah, whenever you guys are ready.
All right, being 6:30, I'd like to call a special finance and personnel committee meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made by Mike, seconded by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On number 2 and 3, we're gonna run together. We're gonna review and recommend the council approval of a developers agreement with First State Bank. Chad?
First of all, I want to apologize because my intention was to have the documents in the packet itself, but I didn't receive them till this morning. So the two attorneys from our firm and representing First State Bank late last week, were finishing up some of the legal language in there to get it to where they needed it to be. So I did email it this morning, so you do have it. But I just want to kind of go through some of the points that I put in my memo that I wanted to point out between the developers agreement and donation agreement. So first of all, the developers agreement continues on what we've been trying to do with the TID districts in our community with the new developments that are coming up. We've negotiated a grant of 50% of the tax increment collected for the construction of the new First State Bank corporate headquarters. Again, this is kind of what our basis had been for our previous developers agreements in the other TID districts. Included on the last page of the memo is the anticipated tax increment schedule based on the projected assessed values. So our assessor Adam Survey looked at the construction costs and the plans for the development, came up with what he feels is the projected assessed value for the property. We gave that to Ellers Associates, which created a schedule for what they anticipate the increment could be. As of this time, the increment over the 20-year life of the TID is anticipated to bring in $477,200 based on what we gave them on First State Bank's new development. So half of that would obviously be $238,600. This is a pay-go situation. So first of all, they pay their taxes, and then we pay half of their increment back to them. So it's not an upfront payment by any means. It's pay as we go along, which is nicer that we don't have to have an upfront cost by anything. We're just paying it as we collect it. So our half of the increment we use to put improvements on the TID district. Our proposal in this case would be to use 50% of our increment towards parking lot improvements and then other 2024 downtown reconstruction improvements. Those improvements, the council will vote on and decide and confirm later on as we go through those projects. So that's just probably what our proposal will be at this point in time. But you guys as council people will confirm that and approve those increment payments, what we spend that on in the future. You may have noticed in the developers agreement that the maximum grant called out is $500,000. However, the anticipated TID grant is about $238,000. That maximum amount it's not the guarantee, it's just the cap. So if for some reason, the value of that property skyrockets and goes up and their payments go up, or the tax rate goes up, we still only pay 50%, but a max would be $500,000 for this grant project. Minimum construction cost for the bank needs to be $4 million. And this is based on their estimates that they gave us and their projections. And just some other little tidbits for, I guess, your knowledge for the construction. They would need to be completed by January 15th, 2024. They plan on being done well before that, but in case something comes up, they have a little leeway until that point. The developers agreement and the donation agreement are tied together. So we also have the donation agreement in there that if for some reason that the bank decides to terminate the donation agreement and not donate the building, then that also ties and it terminates the developers agreement and they do not get their grant. So the donation agreement and the developers agreement are tied together. So I want you guys to be aware of that when you vote on these two things. If you vote on one, it should be voted, they go in tandem. So they are tied to each other. And then the closing date for taking ownership of the new building in the donation agreement for the new library project would be no later than January 15th, 2024. So those are the kind of things I wanted to call out. There's obviously plenty of other lawyer, legal mumbo jumbo in there that our two attorneys have negotiated on and felt both comfortable on our end and their end for, you know, the agreements. And that's what I got so far. So I guess I'd open it up to any questions. I will say that I did hear from the president of the First State Bank. There was, I mean, through their process, deciding what they were going to do. I mean, they obviously did talk about all their scenarios of whether they wanted to construct in New London, you know, look at, you know, different markets and different communities, whether they wanted to move the corporate headquarters. And he did say, you know, our working with them and showing commitment and showing that we wanted them into New London was definitely a factor in them building in New London. So I'm proud and happy that that was a comment that I heard from the bank president. I don't know where in their process that was, but it was nice to see and get feedback that they were very happy that the city was willing to work with them and show that we want them in New London. That's all I
I
got.
can tell you, talking about TID district in general, having this development at this time is really advantageous to us as a city because as we know, there's some infrastructure that the city needs to put in on the river property. So we need to take out a state trust fund loan that was all in the TID district when we first talked about it. And what this will do is this will give us the availability of the dollars starting from this construction, and we'll receive funding so that by the time we make our first payment to our state trust fund loans, those dollars will come out of this development. So it's really a perfect storm or perfect timing that happened. And it's a very positive timing for this construction to happen. So.
We've worked with them for years anyway with our depository and stuff. With that
Correct.
state bank. So it's kind of-
Mhm. First State Bank is our deposit of choice. So we do utilize First State Bank for almost all of our deposits, our tax collection, our main checking account, and all our ACH payments, all our bond payments. So yes, we have developed a great relationship with them through the 29 years I've been working here with First State Bank.
All right, if we don't have anything else, we'll look for a motion to approve a developers agreement with First State Bank.
I'll make that motion.
Motion been made by Tim, seconded by Bob to approve a developers agreement with First State Bank. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Also look for approval of the donation agreement with First State Bank.
So move.
Motion been made by Tim, seconded by Mike for approval of a donation agreement with First State Bank. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I look for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Motion been made by Bob, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. We are adjourned.